vacation.
First week of January. Well, unfortunately, we didn't have our annual sales meeting, which typically falls the first week of January. So it just worked out with great flights and cheap spot. So that's what we did. It was fun. We had lucked out with the weather. Flew into Tampa Bay. Never been there before. Did Ybor City for a little while.
Nice.
Before we went back to the plane. I had mistakenly thought that was in Miami. I'm a pretty good map guy, but when we were driving the rent-a-car back,
You're off about 500 miles.
I know,
Yeah.
about 4.5 hours.
I'm usually a good map guy.
I saw something that said Ybor. I'm like, isn't that Miami?
No.
Igor?
So it wasn't, and then we went.
No. I don't know.
But Ybor City was really, really cool. That was a fun place. It reminded me of the village in New York, West Village. Very unique place.
Another city that's very far away from Tampa.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love
New
Ybor
York.
City.
We hit 3 of the the shops that roll with cigars there, and you can buy them there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went grabbed some lunch, and then dropped the car off, and then flew back home.
That sounds nice.
Yeah.
It sounds like a nice
Yeah.
day. Now, recently, and we talked about this on the show a couple of months ago, the most popular size for the longest time in cigars have been the Robusto or the Rothschild. Now it's the Toro,
Mm-hmm.
right? But we're seeing a lot of Robusto and Rothschild's, size cigars come to market. Like Wynwood Hills, for instance, the Aladino Vintage Rothschild for another. There's other ones out there. Those are 2 great examples, though. Do you see short cigars as still having a big place in the market?
I think so, especially in the colder markets.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, we're in.
Yes.
It's about a 45-minute cigar, an hour. 45 minutes to an hour. That's a quick cigar.
20 minutes if you're Nick.
Yep. Some people, if they have 2 or 3 a day, it's not 2 or 3 60 by 6, if you will, Gordos. But I'd like to see this in a Corona format.
This would be really nice.
44 by 6, yeah, and it's a great cigar, but I like the smaller ring gauges, even though I sell a lot of large ring gauge cigars. But I'm not sure I would say there's kind of a resurgence, but that classic 50 count box, as we're seeing, there's quite a few brands that are bringing that back and have had it back. Illusiones had their 50 count Rothschild forever.
Yeah.
And that's a fantastic cigar
Yeah,
as well.
it is a good cigar.
Yep. So I'm not sure if there's a resurgence in it. I just think it's a classic size and a classic pack count of 50. So, a short Robusto, if you will, the Rothschild. I just always remember smoking the Punch way back when I first started.
That's what I smoked when I first started.
Yeah, they're a great little
Rothschild.
cigar. I mean, at one point, way back, they were $3.
Yeah.
They're $2.75.
$3, $4.
$3, yeah.
You didn't have to pay a lot of money for
Right.
a cigar. I don't know if I would say that. I mean, this is so much better than a Punch.
Well, I like them both, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still like this a lot better than the Punch.
Yeah. The
Even
broadleaf,
with you trying to be nice.
the broadleaf, we're all in the same boat. Grab your oar. The broadleaf is excellent, as we all know. Connecticut broadleaf is, it's got that sweetness to it. This cigar reminds me a lot of cedar. It's another hallmark of the Aroa.
Yeah, they fresh cut their boxes a lot,
Yes,
right?
they do, yeah.
Did they do that with the Wynwood Hills as well?
The cedar, that's in the box, and the layer of cedar on top is fresh
Right.
cut. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
those
what brings
boxes
that
are
special spice.
correct. Yeah. On the Aroa line, the cedar it's cut and closed right into the box. It's designed to buy the box, if you will. And depending on how many you would enjoy, you could get away with keeping it just in that box with a Boveda or something. Without having a humidor. So that's the idea of cutting the cedar that day, if you will. So
That's awesome.
but this has the classic sheet on top. It curls. If you see when you open the box, it's in as they're stored.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's like a shield over the cigars.
Correct. Yep.
And that's fresh cut.
Fresh cut. Yeah.
Nice. Now, we all know 2020 was a really weird year in a lot of different ways.
Yes. For everybody.
And
yeah.
The year of
you
the
know,
lemon.
But thankfully, for twins, it ended up being a great year, and it ended up being a great year for a lot of cigar shops in New Hampshire. 2021 is getting underway. What do you think, Jim? I mean, do you think we're going to have another year like last year? Do you see the numbers continuing to go up, or are you thinking this is going to be more difficult? Where have you seen other stores,
I
you
think-
know, in New England or in the Northeast? Is everyone doing?
I think
really
everyone's
good?
for the most part's doing okay. In our area, our territory, I think everyone basically survived it, so which is good. You never
Yeah.
want to see a small business go out of business at all.
Right.
I think we'll need a couple more months to see, at least the first quarter, to see what the numbers show. Obviously, last year there was way more consumption because people were home, or they were going to, when they could, after the curbside thing phased out, you'd find people that would go to lounges. So you're more apt, if you're sitting there for 8 hours doing your work on your laptop, you're more apt to have more than one cigar. So the consumption definitely increased. The issue right now is mainly supply.
Right.
Is what's happening now. So it will be interesting to see what happens. I think we need at least the first quarter to see what's going on, because due to the back order situation. So, but I have a pretty good feeling. I think by summer, once the vaccine's going to be going around, people will have more confidence to go out. They're starting to loosen up things. I think we'll all try to do, the distancing and all these things that they have in place everywhere now. But I think we need definitely the first quarter to see what's going on.
Is Christian excited about the vaccine?
I believe he is. He is the world's #1 germaphobe before the pandemic.
Yes.
So I will say that.
Well, he said it himself. I
Oh
mean, you're
my
not
God.
saying anything he
Well, I
did not
had
say
him
on this
well,
show.
we were traveling March. Last year it was D-Day. That was March 13th. It was a Thursday. They closed the whole world down, basically, right?
Yeah.
We had an interesting trip from New Hampshire to Rhode Island to Connecticut. He didn't make Connecticut. I made Connecticut. I had to shoot him back to Boston and fly back home. But I did complete the third event at a great account in Connecticut, Mickey Blake's. So it worked out, but I think he got nervous. People got nervous.
Yeah.
So I remember buying the last two sanitized wipes at 7-Eleven at like midnight. After I dropped him off at the hotel,
Yeah.
he texted me, "Get me wipes." Yes, sir. So
Was he monk?
yeah. I'm wipes. I'm wipes. Yeah. I'm just the driver. So it worked out that I happened to be near a local 7-Eleven, and I went in, and there they were. So I gave them the next morning and drove him to Logan. And then it got really weird, right, for everybody for
Yeah.
quite a while. Yeah, last April was crazy.
April
it
was crazy, yeah.
Yeah, it was a long period for a lot of people, especially being cooped up. I got back out on the road like the second week of May, I think it was. So it was off almost 2 months, if you will, half
Right.
of March, all of April, and half of May. So two
Right,
months.
right.
Yeah. And then at that point, driving around, there was no traffic. It was world record times down to the Cape,
Oh my gosh,
through
yeah.
Boston. It was right. It was just really weird being on the high. There was
I know,
nobody.
everything looked like a ghost town. It
Nobody was
crazy.
on the road.
I've never been able to get to Boston so fast in my life.
Well, it's actually now. So a year later, basically, essentially a year later, it's all back. I mean, the traffic wise. I mean, I drive enough to know
Yeah.
that it's definitely back. I won't say it's as bad as it used to be, but it's noticeably back, if you will. Commute times. But unfortunately, the cities are very quiet. Boston's very quiet. Hartford's very quiet. Buffalo's quiet. It's just what it is, But I think once summer comes along, we'll hopefully we'll be in a better position and people will be outside and having fun. And
Well, certainly
So-
by then Christian should have had his little booster shot, and then he could actually come and actually sit with us on this show.
Yeah, right.
Instead
well,
of
he doesn't
Skyping
fly.
in
He
from his
doesn't fly
secret bunker.
commercials, so
No, he needs a plane with plenty of wipes.
exactly.
Well, we're going to be talking about cutting and cutters and stuff in just a minute, but before we get to that, we put together a little segment actually talking about how to cut your cigar correctly using a bunch of different cutters, and we're going to play that for you right now.
Right now.
All right, we're here tonight to talk to you a little bit about cutting, cutters, how to do it, how not to do it, and we have a little array of cutters here. Let's show these first. Can you see that, Dave? Can you see that? This is a Lotus Jaws cutter It's got some nice serrated teeth to it that help it grip the cap of the cigar, and it cuts really, really nice. We've all seen these. The plastic cutters.
I think I've seen one here and there.
The quintessential plastic cutter that stores sell. We have ours with the 724 logo on it. Both of these are called guillotine cutters. Double guillotine cutters to be precise, because there is a guillotine at each end. That's how it works. See that, Paul?
It's amazing.
Yep. They are designed to cut a straight cut across the top of your cigar. There's other types of cutters, though. This is a Lotus 11 millimeter bullet cut. Okay, and what this does is you insert the bullet into the head of the cigar and you gently twist like that, and then pull it out, and boom, you have this nice little circle, in this case an 11 millimeter circle, cut out of the top of your cigar. Now and then you screw that back in, the tobacco pops out, boom, there it goes. And if you take this, watch how this cuts, and this is what you want. You want just a little bit off the top. That's it. See that? See that there? That's all you need for a great cut on a cigar. Paul, you want to explain those cutters there?
All right, so this is the Cigar XO. Now, this is a very interesting cutter. It's designed on a patent-pending planetary gear system. So there's 5 gears inside here, and the great thing about this is as you're pushing in to cut your cigar, the double guillotine blades go seamlessly right to cut it, and not one is lagging behind the other. So in some certain guillotine cutters, as you're cutting, one side seems to close a little quicker than the other. This is designed so that both sides will close very evenly and give you a nice clean cut. This is the Colibri Dual. Now it's both a deep V cut on one side and a straight cut on the other. And the great thing I love about this particular one is it does allow the cigar to stop, so you can cut it nice and cleanly. Actually, as a matter of fact, I'm going to cut this one for you. Just insert it, make sure it's nice and even, and then swiftly. Look how good that is, huh?
And what's the point of that kind of cut, Paul?
Well, it does. The theory is that it does draw better, and you probably get a little bit less tobacco. Although I personally don't really care much for V cutters. I like the straight cut the best, but a lot of people like these because it does draw the smoke a lot more evenly and a lot easier. On the other side here is your straight cut, and again, it does have a stopper. So as you insert the cigar to cut, it just stops it. So all you have to do is just a nice clean cut, just enough to get the cold draw through. This is the Cigar V-Cut. Now this is designed to do the same thing. I'll cut this one here for you. See, really nice. And these are all pretty much going to be, can accept up to a 70 ring gauge cigar.
Right. And these plastic cutters, start what? $5, $6?
$5.
Yeah, $5. These cutters here are 30, I think. This is also 30. The dual is 75.
That's 50.
And this is the big kahuna at $100.
Yeah.
101, between 100 and 120, depending on the colors and the colors of the blade. Now, let me show you here how not to cut a cigar. Okay, we see people doing this. First of all, don't do this first. And then take your cutter, or God forbid, somebody else's cutter, and then cut it. That's just gross and it's disgusting. Don't do that. Okay? Another thing you don't want to do is, and I've seen people do this, they just come, get down as far down as they can, and cut off the cigar. Look, you want to treat your cutter and your cutting cigars like you're a Jewish mohel. not some kind of jihadist warrior who's trying to make a statement. You do not want to do this to your cigar. Okay? See this? I just took off the cap of the cigar. The cap is what is holding the rest of the cigar together. So if you cut all that off, the cigar is going to end up unraveling. Don't do that. You want it to look like this, not like this.
Yeah, remember, folks, less is more.
Less is more. Shave it. Don't behead it. Thus saith Pastor Padron.
Thank you. Come again.
All right, everybody. That is how you properly cut a cigar, or in a particular case, how you don't cut a cigar. We had fun putting that together, didn't we? Yeah, it's always fun doing that. What's your favorite type of cuts, Jim? What kind of cut do you like to put on your cigar?
Well, for a long time, I liked the V cut, especially that one that came out. It's actually, what's the one with the deep V?
Yeah, the Calibri.
Calibri, yeah. When that came out, I got one of those, and I still have it. It's one of the things I haven't lost. But I was doing that for a long time, and then believe it or not, Christian, he doesn't even use a cutter. He just pulls the end off.
Yeah.
So I find myself doing that. I'm like the carpenter that's got a hole in the wall at his house. I don't have a cutter on me. I don't have a lighter. Always going around. I should, but lately, I mean, tonight I use that, but I just been pinching the end and pulling it off. I don't think there's a particular right or wrong way. You never want to go obviously past the cap.
Correct.
That would affect the cigar and have it start to unwrap the wrapper. But I would say overall, definitely the V is something that I would probably use the most amount.
Why do you like the V?
I like the way it channels the smoke.
Yeah.
Less and less. Sometimes in the end, less tobacco in your mouth.
Okay.
And then there's times when you do a cross cut too, as well. The V both ways. You know, for a little effect. That was a big Sean thing.
Yeah, Sean does that a lot.
The cross cut. You know, I've seen people bite. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's so many different ways, but obviously you don't want the wrapper to unravel.
Correct.
So every cap is going to be a little bit different, especially if it's a triple cap. But I would say overall, in all my history of smoking and enjoying cigars, probably the V cut is the one
V-cut's your favorite?
use the most. Yeah.
What about you, Bree? I'm curious what your favorite type of cut is.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with that, not just for myself, but even just seeing the prevalence of what people, back when we were cutting cigars for people at the bar, what they would choose when you ask them, would you like a V cut or a straight cut? I do feel like a lot of people opted for the V cut. A lot of people weren't aware of what the V cut was and would just say straight cut. But yeah, I feel like there are certain cigars where like a V cut might potentially be a little weird. I'm talking like the super, super tiny ones. But other than that, I do also like the way that V cuts channel smoke. I like the extra little bit of grab that you can get depending on the size of the cigar when you have a V cut as opposed to just an exposed straight. So yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with that.
So you prefer not to V-cut a cafe court? Is that what you're saying?
Don't put words in my mouth now, Paul. I'm not gonna deny it.
Paul, what about yourself? What's your favorite kind of cut?
I prefer the straight cut, and if I'm not sure if probably can't see this, but you see how very, very little is taken off the head here, just enough to get the cold draw through. That's all I do for every single cigar, no matter what kind of cigar I'm smoking. Just a little bit off the top, that's all, and there's no tobacco coming out. I know the V-cuts, you say that there's less tobacco going to go in your mouth because of that, but if you just take off a little bit off the top, you'll have the same effect. It will be just that.
Good point. Yeah.
Just and if you take off just a little bit, the smoke is going to travel through the cigar, and it's going to go through just a tiny hole. Get a little bit more intensity of the flavors too.
Ooh, so you intensify the flavors with that.
I think with the V-cut, it tends to dissipate because it's such a wide cut that, and again, it's preference, but it's also if you know what you're looking for flavor, that's why I'd like just to take a little bit off the top.
Yeah. I think actually the V-cut, you end up percentage-wise probably higher with going too deep with it, especially that Calibri cutter, which it's a great cutter, but that thing can go in fairly deep.
Right.
So we just saw it the other day at the shop, and too much of that will crack the head.
Yeah, some of those V's almost go past the shoulder of the cigar.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
So maybe shallow V as opposed to deep V.
Yeah.
So, Dave, shallow V, deep V, S, punch.
I think Dave looks like
Teeth.
that type of guy who just gnaws on it. You know.
Yeah. What I do is I take a match and I just shove it into the back there. Yeah, it makes me remember some things, and then I take it out and light it up.
I started out with the V, with the deep
This
V,
segment brought to you by the Leadwoods.
because I have a Calibri, I have a Calibri double, and I started
Double?
out with the V,
The duo.
the duo,
Duo.
and but now I've become, based on like what Paul just said, that's pretty much what I do. Is I just skin the slightest amount of off the top, and I feel like I get the best draw from that. And I still think, however, that the V does do a better job of getting tobacco not in your mouth. So, but yeah, I like the draw typically better. But it also depends on what I'm smoking. If I'm smoking a Figurado, I'll typically do a V. If I'm smoking a chisel, I'll punch it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
The chisel.
Well, that leads to a great question. Are there different sizes or vitolas of cigars that you cut differently? You obviously said the chisel. You decide to punch.
Yeah.
Is there any kind of cigar, Paul, that you would do a different kind of cut to because of the size or shape?
Yes, and we just mentioned it a moment ago, the chisel.
The chisel.
I will punch that, but I don't like chisel cigars that much. But when I do have them, I will punch, and I will not only punch on one side, I'll punch the other two.
Okay, so you punch it. Do you
Punch
do you
plus.
punch straight through, or do you do a little punch on each
A
side?
little punch on each side.
Little punch on each side.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. What about? Have you ever done that? Have you ever
Look at the
treated
confusion on her
different?
face.
Well, when you said
Have you ever
punch,
smoked
when
the
you said
Chiselito?
punch straight through, I was like,
That's a cigar.
chisel.
Strong.
Yeah, I'm just confused by when you say punch straight through. I thought when you
Well,
the
on a-
punch only went like a certain depth.
You can because the chisel ends up getting so thin. You can conceivably, if not, all at once, you could go both ways, meet in the middle, and take out the center. I've seen people do that.
Don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, you look very disturbed.
Yeah, it almost seems like you're eradicating like 50% of the cigar.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Now, do you cut different vitolas differently? You've said you prefer the V,
I would say
but
so.
do you treat different things differently?
Like if I'm smoking a Lancero, chances of me doing a V cut are pretty slim, like the Lancero. So yeah, I'm gonna have to say I'll only really V cut something that's probably like if I have like a Robusto, if I have like a Toro, like something that's like a
All right,
little
so
bit
like a
different.
50 ring gauge or bigger, you're
Yeah.
definitely going to V cut
yeah.
if that would be your preference.
Yes,
But you get into the 40s, you get into the 30s.
I prefer like Paul
Uh,
said, just kind of taking off the cap and calling it a day.
Just skinning it,
Yes,
just
just
Moil.
Skinner.
like a Jewish
Moil. Jewish
Jewish
moil.
Moil.
Not jihadist. No jihadist warriors here. All right, Jimmy boy, do you I know you prefer the V, but do you, or your finger, since you forget stuff a lot, but do you are there particular sizes that you cut differently on purpose?
Well, if I'm gonna smoke an 80 by 6 ogre, I'm not.
Okay.
It's not
That's
gonna
like
work.
as big as your head.
It's not gonna work. Thank you. It's not gonna work with a V cutter.
Mm-hmm.
So, I usually get a steak knife
Mm-hmm.
and I just slice the very end of it off.
he just reminded
No.
me of a pet peeve.
On a larger ring gauge cigar, I would definitely go the guillotine, or if you're the straight cut, the flat cut. Yeah, absolutely. Just simply because the V cut's not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
I think the V it peters out Toro, even for a 60 by 6. It's kind of a bit much trying to
Yeah.
get a V cut into it, but
Yeah.
smaller ring gauge definitely just pick the end off. Yeah.
Sure. Do you have a favorite cutter?
Yes.
So, Dave has the cutter that somebody gave him that he thinks looks really cool.
Yeah.
What kind of cutter is that?
This is a straight cut. It almost mimics like the Jaws.
Okay.
So Yeah.
Same design. Same. Does it have the serrated
Not
edges?
serrated. Nope.
Okay.
Got some nice weight to it though.
It does.
Yeah, it does
Yeah.
have nice weight to
Yeah.
it. But you don't know what brand that is?
Yeah, it's Cigar Loong.
Cigar what?
Loon.
Loong.
Loong?
Loong.
Loong.
Cigar
Loong.
Cigar Loong.
Wow.
That's fitting, huh?
Yeah, we're in.
Okay.
Yeah.
We all yeah.
Bunch of loons.
Paul likes the 724
724
store cutter.
Shameless plug.
Yep. It's just a basic cutter. I've got God knows how many floating around the house, in my car, whatever. But it does exactly what I want it to do, and nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah, for me the Lotus Jaws
Jaws.
is my favorite cutter. It's got some serrations on the. You see the serrations? You see some little serrations there?
Fancy.
I believe it
And-
sharpens
I wanna
itself,
be
right?
so-
And yeah,
Yeah.
and it is so sharp, and it just cuts cigars like butter.
Butter.
It's great. I do prefer the S cut myself, straight cut, and this does a amazing job. There are cigars that I will cut differently. I'll use a V cut occasionally on a Neanderthal, which has like a flat head
Yeah,
to it.
it's really hard.
So
straight cut.
you really have to know what you're doing or have a very sharp cutter to give that a good straight cut. So a V or even the cross cut,
Yeah,
works
it's perfect.
great on that cigar.
But I've tried cutting the Neanderthal with the Lotus Jaws, and it did a fantastic job. with
Oh
it.
yes,
Yeah.
it does.
So.
If you have to pay.
Yep.
It's like playing Operation, but if you like stuff like that, it's
Gotta have a
very,
steady
very
hand.
good. Yeah. Do you have a favorite cutter?
You know, I do, and I can't really recall if it was a Zycar. I believe one of the varieties of that type of cutter was branded by Rocky Patel, but it is a V cut, and you'll know what I'm talking about. It's
Yeah.
the one that has a very smooth V cut. It's almost
Yeah.
like hefty.
And
It's
you
very
hit the little
heavy.
button and it punches out.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
that's
I
the
just
Calibri
love how
makes
they
it for
feel.
them.
Like I feel like they give a very clean, straight cut. I like that they bounce back. They spring out all the extra tobacco from the cut.
Mm-hmm.
It's wonderful.
Look at you stacking dimes over there,
Yeah.
showing off.
So,
That is the hallmark of the Wynwood.
That
These
is
cigars burn unbelievable. From the very inception that we brought these in. That's one of the things.
your hair is very. It's
I
like
know.
mimicking the cigar, standing straight up like that. It's about the same height. Yeah,
I don't
it's
care.
amazing.
You want some
It's
of my hair gel,
it's,
Jim?
it's the same color too.
I still got my hair. See, that's the deal, right?
Yeah,
Some
yeah, that's
people-
good. Not everyone can
People
say
bust
that.
your home days.
Can't say that.
But they always can say I have my hair, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's all right. Kurt has his beard.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, look at the burn. There's the
Yeah.
there's the art form of the fine people of Honduras.
Yeah, I'm
It is a skill to roll a cigar. Yeah.
looking around at all of us. The
Wait,
construction seems to be really good on everybody's cigar. The burn's going great. Everybody's ash is behaving. It's not at all. Well, unless you're Brie.
Yeah,
It's
Bree's
not-
making a mess here.
it's
but
not
we'll
at
let
all.
I only made one mess, to be fair.
We'll let it slide.
Yeah, the
They
ash
got
is
me all
not.
Always
heated.
get a
I
pass.
started shaking my cigar everywhere. It
It's
started
n-
ashing.
It's not a flaky ash or anything like that. It's nice and staying on there very, very good. Now, this is something else Paul kind of brought up here. You know, how many cutters do you have?
I lost count. To be honest
lost
with you.
count.
What cutter don't?
I mean, I mean, I got a bunch of these, kicking around.
Yeah.
I have an old, it's not a double guillotine. It's just a single guillotine that
Oh,
I got.
wow.
I think I got an old cigar shop in Manchester that's no longer there. It was a freebie, and that, believe it or not, it's after all these years, it still can cut my cigar. So it just stays like that, and whoop,
Nice.
Look at
yeah.
that.
So, but other than that, it's just a basic double guillotine cutter is what I have.
It's one of the things about being in the business. You end up with a lot of cutters, whether you like it or not. Whether you. Now, Dave, do you have a bunch of cutters?
I have 5.
You have 5.
I have a
You
Rocky
have a-
Patel one with a back,
Mm-hmm.
so you can't. It's a straight cut, but it's got a back.
It's called a perfect cut cutter.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have one that I just got from Adam from Altadis, the
The butterfly.
yeah,
The butterfly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then I have this beauty given to me by Heather, and then I have my Calibri Duo.
Don't even have it with you.
Yep.
So is that 4 or 5? Or does the duo
Oh, and
count
the
as-
punch.
Yes,
And
I was
the
going
pen
to say.
punch. Yeah.
And the
You
pen
don't
punch.
have one of these?
Paul,
It's not a company man.
I don't know. I have no idea how many cutters I have.
I can't find any of mine.
You can't find any of yours.
I just
Well,
use other people's.
You're not.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
not alone.
Right.
As a matter of fact, one of my big pet peeves, let's talk a little bit about my cigar confessions, is that I can't believe how many people regularly come to Twins. I'm not talking people who just kind of, oh look, it's a cigar shop, let's go in, and maybe they weren't planning on having a cigar. I'm talking about the people who are there all the time, and who almost never have their cutter with them. And unlike Jimmy, don't think, oh, I've got fingernails, I can't, they don't think. And so they're constantly asking, can I borrow your cutter? Can I borrow your cutter? Do you have a cutter I can borrow? And I don't
Guilty
get
of
it.
that.
I don't get it. If you are going to a cigar lounge to enjoy a cigar, and you own cutters, and these people I'm not talking about people who don't own cutters. I'm talking about people who have cutter, but they never think to bring them with them. What's up with that? What's up with that, Bree?
I don't know, but we're encountering it a whole lot now with this whole COVID thing. Like now that we're not cutting people's cigars, we don't have public cutters. It's
Those have always been
unbelievable. I would
gross
say
anyways.
probably about 90% of people
Yeah.
that come in end up having to
Really?
either buy a cutter off of us or borrow someone else's at the bar.
I know, and it's like I remember.
Oh shit.
It had to be a couple of months ago now. I was over at Londonderry working a Saturday evening with Nick, and a customer asked if he could borrow Nick's cutter because there was no community cutter. Nick, being the stand-up guy that he was, gave him his cutter. The guy took his cigar, stuck it into his mouth, spun it around,
Yep.
and then cut the cigar.
Bro.
And then handed the cutter back. And Nick said, "No, it's yours now." and the guy was like,
rub his
"Are you
nose with
saying that? Are you saying that because I put it in my mouth?" Yes. It's your cutter.
What?
Just take it. Just take it. And he did. And he took the cutter. But I couldn't believe it. And it's
It's habit.
Yeah.
I
They
mean,
weren't
I guess
thinking.
that's what it is.
They weren't
If it's your cutter and you want to do that, okay, I wouldn't even want to get into the habit of that. If you have a good sharp cutter, there's no reason to put the cigar in your mouth first. I mean, the reason to do that is to kind of get the tobacco a little bit moist so it's a little bit easier to cut, not so dry. But if you're getting your cigar at a reputable shop like Twins, you don't have to worry about doing that.
Worst case, dip it in your whiskey and then cut it.
Yeah, well, that would even be better. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Amen.
Jim, what's one of your big cigar pet peeves?
My biggest pet peeve is when someone calls a cigar a stick.
Why is that?
Because a
that is so
cigar-
common.
A cigar is not a stick. A cigar is a cigar. A stick is a stick.
What about a stogie?
A stogie, let
Another
that
word for
slide.
cigar.
But that's probably my biggest pet peeve. I've never, to my knowledge, remember calling a cigar a stick, and I think that it takes away from what actually goes on to make a cigar. As we know, it's a 3 to 4 year process by the time they're even in a box to where we are smoking them.
Right.
I have a huge respect for the people that work hard to make the cigars from everyone on the farm. So to put it out as slang to me is derogatory. I don't think it's done intentionally.
No.
Or people are trying to be whatever about it. But I would say definitely, I cringe when I hear it's a good stick because I don't smoke sticks.
Oh, you don't?
I smoke cigars.
This is a great stick.
So I would say that.
Stick
I mean,
that in your pipe and smoke
on the
it.
retail level, when I was in retail, the biggest pet peeve I had, someone would take the cigar and just rub their nose under it. And they obviously you just bought it, so
Yeah.
whether you smoke it or not, but and that's not some people don't know. I mean, it's the job to educate them and just say, hey,
Sure.
listen, you see people do that in supermarkets with fruit. They're rubbing it all over their face and stuff. It's like, what the hell are you doing? It's an apple. Buy it, or you own it now. You know what I mean? And you see people put it back though. I mean, that's
Yeah, put it back.
that's ridiculous. You know what I mean? I mean, especially now today too, right? Thinking the produce people squeezing everything, and is it fresh? And
Well,
we
it's
don't even know
funny,
we're doing it.
But you're
I mean,
right. I mean, people don't know. I
we
mean,
don't
I
know
had,
we're. It's
it-
almost a habit, if you will. We don't know. I mean, you pick up most of the fruits picked way early, anyways, and it's not even ripe when it's at the store. So you go to pick up a pear, and it's like a baseball.
yeah.
But you picked it up. So do you keep it or you put it back? I mean,
Well, I mean, if you pick it up, I mean, it's one thing to put it on your nose, and,
right.
you know, or that's different.
Yeah.
You know, getting your
Rubbing the cigar under the nose is just
Yeah.
it's just horrendous. Yeah.
It's almost
Yeah.
like
And if
looking
you're
at-
going to keep it and smoke, that's fine. If you want to,
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I've seen people put, they're like they have this whole process to it, which tells me they have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, that's the but you're right. I mean, there is a lot of when you see it,
it's
you have
not
to
doing
take
it
the time to
intentionally,
educate.
they're not,
I remember it was funny. A person who's actually going after a CLE Connecticut cigar, and they're trying to see if it was fresh.
Yeah.
And they were feeling the cigar all over the place. It's like,
Looking for knots.
all up and down, and they squeezed the head, and the head popped off.
Oh no.
Yeah.
And I was like, what are you doing?
right.
And I'm trying to see if the cigar's. I don't know if this cigar is good. The head just popped off. I said, well, you just you
Don't
literally
squeeze the
popped off.
Charmin.
Don't squeeze the Charmin.
Right.
And then I took the time to then educate him about how you can tell
Yeah,
if
it's
a
it's
cigar
quick-
is
yeah,
fresh
you
and
don't squeeze. You give it a,
and squeeze
middle.
give the foot give the
Yeah,
give the foot a
that's
little
all.
squeeze, and if
Little-
you
yeah.
see it bounce back, you
you
get a
know.
little give, a little bounce back, then you know it's good. If it crackles, it's dry. If your fingers are moist afterwards, it's probably too damp.
Right.
But you never do that to the head of the cigar. Don't do
No.
it to the body of the cigar, because you can crack everything.
Well, you shouldn't touch it where someone's going to put it in their mouth anyway.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
And that's a big thing now. It's always should have, not a big thing, but I mean, it should have been. But now look at COVID, and then there's more attention to that. As far, because like I said, sometimes you don't even know. I mean, that you're doing it.
Right.
You're just subconsciously just touching everything on the thing, and then you put it back.
It's habit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
They're
mean,
so used
I
to doing
equate,
it.
like I just said, I equate it to the produce in a supermarket.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of places
Pe-
now,
people, I mean, you don't eat the banana peel. I guess that's one thing. I mean,
Right.
an orange, and I don't know anyone that's eating an orange peel, but
Nick.
even the chemicals that are on it and so forth. But I don't know.
Well,
Does Nick eat orange peels?
Well, no, but he so we have to peel,
I wouldn't doubt it.
Well, listen to this. So we have to peel the orange skin to make our old fashioned. So what happens is we end
Oh,
up
this
with
is true on the
an
cocktail
orange
side.
that
Yeah.
has no skin. It just has rind all
Right.
over it, but the orange inside is still intact. So one day Nick saw Kendra throwing out the orange, and he goes, "Wait, I'll eat that." And so we've made a habit of saving our peeled oranges for Nick.
You learn so much every day, and then there's more about Nick.
yeah.
You never knew
Gentlemen,
before.
Nick has been removed from the panel.
He's fine.
Oh my gosh. So while we're on that subject, what's our final verdict here on this beautiful cigar, the Unhinged?
That's fantastic.
Yes, it actually is very fantastic. This has been a very, very smooth, earthy, cedar sweet, but with the Smuggler's Notch maple straight Kentucky bourbon whiskey. It's actually, to me, bringing out a little bit of an unsweetened chocolate flavor too. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think it's a very good complementary pairing.
Next time you open a bundle to refill the shelf, because they sell like wildfire.
Stick it up your nose.
Honestly, don't stick your nose in it. But when you crack the bundle, the cellophane, and you nose it, it smells exactly like chocolate.
Yep, exactly.
And that's the broadleaf. in my
That's the
opinion.
broadleaf.
I
Yeah,
love
that's
broadleaf.
definitely the
Oh,
broadleaf.
yeah, that's one of my favorite wrappers.
Yeah.
too.
It's,
Yep.
So that's what that's the biggest thing I get out of it. Anytime I crack a bundle.
Dave,
like
what do you think about the cigar?
I'm getting a lot of sweet cedar from it. My palate is a little rough today, so.
Must have been them pepperoni pizza.
Well, no, I had a bit of a sinus headache last night,
Oh.
so and then I took some ibuprofen, and that kind of like messed up my palate a little bit. I'm not getting as much as I usually do.
Probably from the time you ate that ghost pepper.
Hey, but he got $20.
Yeah, I got $20. Yeah, filled my tank.
You also emptied your tank. You almost emptied it.
Oh, yes, I did.
There
Yeah.
we go.
Yes, I
He
did.
looked about as green as Grogu over
Literal.
there.
Listen, get it straight. It's Baby Yoda.
It's Grogu.
No, that's his
See,
name.
when Yoda died, he didn't die. He went to the other area.
The big force in the sky.
Yes, he did. He's all-powerful Jedi. He was 900 years old. So if I'm not mistaken, this is when he was around 50 or 100.
He was a
No?
he was
Do I
a
have it
youngling,
backwards?
but he was a youngling back when Anakin was training. So
Ah,
him
okay.
and Anakin are actually the same age.
Ah, okay. All right. I did not know that.
Yeah, but he's 50 right now.
Fun, useless Star Wars facts brought to you by Not Just Blowing
Well,
Smoke.
George Lucas sold it for $4.2 billion to Disney, and they've already made that back. So maybe George is kicking himself, or he's still laughing all the way.
George is still very much involved.
It's only
Yeah.
the beginning too. They're coming out with multiple.
Yeah,
new
what a
series
great
on
show,
all the
though. That show was
characters.
fantastic.
Yeah, that show was really
The
good.
production value is insane.
Yeah, and it tied in so many things.
Just goes to show you what happens when you put a Marvel guy in charge of it. All of a sudden,
And
they get
they
good.
didn't sell any of those, right? They didn't sell that doll. No one bought any of those for Christmas.
Are you kidding?
No.
Those
No,
sold
no,
out.
I know.
Oh, you're
It's like
no.
nobody bought Baby Yoda in 2020.
No,
Maybe they'll bring back Toys R Us, hopefully, because they used to have about 3 aisles of Star Wars.
yeah, right.
Yep.
Now, Bree, what do you think of this Unhinged?
I think that there's a theme between the whiskey and the cigar, just in the sense that both of these, the cigar and the whiskey, have that common concept of don't judge a book by its cover. Because looking at this cigar, I was expecting it to be like pretty bold, like it, not that it's not bold, but I was expecting it to be very peppery,
Right.
like where I get to the end and I almost have like, a lot of pepper on my palate. But so far, all I'm getting is, that sweet cedar with just the right amount of pepper that kind of builds throughout the smoke. And just like the whiskey, you look at it and you expect it to be overly sweet, a little bit overpowering, but it pretty much just tastes like a well put together whiskey with slight hints of maple that complement the cigar very well and kind of give you that very like mild but enjoyable combination.
Yeah.
You're welcome, Bree.
Thank you all.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm not picking up cedar on this at all.
No?
I get earth, I get cocoa, I get lots of real nice, rich flavors to it. Maybe it's the whiskey that's masking it for me, but that sweet, earthy, cocoa-y, note. That's what I'm getting. There's a little bit of spice on the retrohale for me. It's a really enjoyable cigar, and I think the Unhinged is my favorite in the Wynwood series. It is a fantastic short cigar, and again, the price is right. And
Yeah.
we've been at it for just about an hour, and we're just finishing
Just
up.
about,
so
yeah.
you think you're getting this little Rothschild that's going to be gone in like 20 minutes? No, it's rolled really well, and it lasts a good long time.
Uh-huh.
Another factor about the roll too is like I feel like this is the kind of cigar where even if you cut a little bit too far, the construction of the cap is so like compact that it stays intact.
Yeah.
Like even if you just look at the cigar at the head, all of the tobacco is perfectly packed. There's no flaking, there's no shattering.
Good point.
Yeah, it's good.
And you're not getting any tobacco in your mouth either,
No
are
tobacco,
you?
man.
See?
Tobacco.
Lotus Jaws,
No
baby.
tobacco.
Lotus Jaws. Lotus Jaws.
Snippy, snippy.
Snippy,
to the cut.
snippy. That's right.
Cut to the chase.
We're looking at a little snippy, snippy, not a whack, whack. Okay. That's it for this segment. Hold on. We're going to be back in about 5 minutes, and we will be looking at Gawith Hogarth's Brown Bogie. We'll be
Yes.
right back. Now, Paul here is going to show you how to properly light a cigar.
Okay, so what I do is it's a two-step process. The first thing I want to do is I want to tee it up or toast the cigar. All right, now there's a couple of ways you can toast the cigar. What I notice a lot of people do is they'll take their cigar, they'll take their lighter, they'll ignite it, and they'll go ahead and move the lighter so that it's touching the tobacco, touching the footing here, until it's properly toasted. What I do is I actually hold the lighter steady, and I'll take the cigar and I'll get it just over the light until it starts to ignite, and then I'll just rotate it. And what I'm doing here is I'm adhering the wrapper to the binder. I'm just sealing it up.
That's amazing, Paul.
Yeah.
You're doing such a great job.
All right, so now it's toasted. Now comes the light. And what I do is I'll start off and I'll do quarter turns. All right, so ignite your lighter. Again, you want to keep the cigar just above the light. That's the hottest part of the flame, just until you can see it ignite.
And you see how he's pulling the lighter back as he's doing it.
Perfect. That's what you want. You'll be successful every time if you do that.
Now, a lot of what I see, let's talk about how not to do this, all right? First off, I see people doing all the time. I notice Paul and I did not do this. They take their torch lighter and they get right up here and they go like this. See, now people like doing that because they're impatient. They want to just get right to the tobacco. They want to get to the lighting. It's like lighting is the least favorite thing for them to do. But if you look at this, you can see how the tobacco has been scorched at the bottom by doing that with the torch. That changes the flavor of the cigar. So if I take a draw on this one, and I get some nice wood notes, I get a little bit of spice. If I do the same with this one, I'm getting a lot of char. I can actually taste the burned tobacco. So you can really, really impact how your cigar is going to perform for the rest of the time based on how you light it up front. Now, another thing that people do wrong is they don't bother with the whole toasting thing. And they just kind of hold it up to the face. And again, with the torch, and then they get frustrated. Where the fuck is he lighting? And then they end up with something like this, where it is half lit, okay? That's gonna be actually hard to correct because, you know, the tobacco is not gonna taste right because only half the cigar is lit. If you don't take the time to evenly light the cigar right up front, it's gonna burn funny, it's gonna taste funny. So it is really important to take the time to do your cigar right. Toast it like you're toasting a marshmallow, and then do the light like you saw Paul and I do it. If you like soft flame, it's going to take a little bit longer. If you like a torch like Paul does, it's still going to take maybe longer than you thought, but you will really appreciate it when you take the time to light your cigar correctly. Right?
I think of it as when I'm smoking meat, you want to do it low and slow, low flame.
Low and slow.
You don't want a heavy flame. You want to keep it just above the light. Again, that's the hottest part of the flame is just above it. And when you start to see the tobacco start to ignite, that's all you need. And as long as you do the turns after you toast it, your cigar should be lit properly, and you'll enjoy it that much more.
Thank you. Come again.
All rise.
All right, everybody. Thanks for hanging in there. Now we move to our pipe tobacco review. And we are smoking Gawith and Hogarth's Brown Bogie. And from the tobaccoreviews.com site, we read this about it. This is a dark-fired and dark air-cured twist, also known as Happy Bogie, an old-fashioned rope tobacco that provides a stout smoke with high nicotine content.
Oh boy.
All our twist tobacco varieties are manufactured by the same spinning process using dark-fired wrapper leaves. The filler is again predominantly dark-fired leaf with the addition of a small percentage of dark air-cured Indian leaf. They are therefore strong tobaccos. And then it has in a little notes section, which I think is stuff that was previously put on the bags or on the tins when this stuff was made. It isn't on the bags anymore. This Gawith and Hogarth and Co. Dark Fired and Air Cured Twist is also known as Happy Bogie. This brown twist is a bit stronger than the black twist and is made to slice into coins for smoking or small plugs for chewing, as done by many sailors. And this tobacco comes in the form of a rope and was actually manufactured specifically for passage on ships and stuff like that. Sailors would take it with them. It could be stored in a relatively small space. Not much of it would be exposed to the air because most of the tobacco is in the core of the rope. And so they would cut off, when they were on the ship, they would cut off a piece and chew it, use it as chewing tobacco, because lighting a fire on a big wooden boat out at sea is probably a bad idea.
This is true.
And when they were in port, they would make thinner slices called flakes, rub them out, put them into their pipe, and smoke it. But being that sailors are all strong, they need some strong stuff to help them stay awake, and that's what this stuff was for. And we are pairing the same whiskey with this, right? This is the, what's the name of it again?
Smuggler's Notch Maple Straight Kentucky Bourbon Whiskey.
How do you remember that?
I don't know.
You're amazing, Paul. You're my
Paul
idol.
knows his spirits.
I remember what I love.
Oh my gosh. So we're going to light this up here. How many people have their pipes going already?
Oh, I do.
Now,
It's
we're
fantastic.
gonna show you a little video of how we prep this tobacco. You'll see the rope and stuff in just a minute. But before we get to that, I'd like to know what people's initial reaction is to the tobacco and to the pairing here with the maple whiskey. And we'll start with you, Dave.
A lot of earth, a little bit of I want to say a slight underlying amount of like a mesquite kind of barbecue-ish. Smooth. It's very smoky. Obviously, you can tell by the volumes of smoke going through everywhere. And even though we had this out for hours, it still needs a little bit of relighty. Yes, it does.
Yeah, I cut this tobacco for us at the beginning of the day and let it sit out so that it would dry enough for us to smoke tonight. But rope tobacco is notorious for holding its moisture. So even now, it may take some time to really catch. Paul, what are you picking up?
Smoky mesquite, leather, a little bit of sweetness, great spice though.
In the retro.
Yeah, the retro is really, really rich. This is a fantastic tobacco.
How do you think it pairs with your whiskey?
I think it pairs very, very good. Again, another complementary pairing. I think it's bringing out a little bit more of the smoky mesquite to me. It's transcendent.
Is it transcendent, Paul? Or
It
is Dave
it is transcendent.
Bree, have you been able to get yours started?
Yeah, so before sipping my whiskey with it, I puffed on it a few times, and I'm not sure if my bowl is just, I haven't used my bowl in a while, but I got very, very, very strong like milk cocoa notes from the aroma. Like it was really interesting. It was almost like there was like melted chocolate in my bowl, but on the actual retrohale, I did get a lot of that mesquite. And with the whiskey, it balanced out very well because I think the maple the maple notes in the whiskey kind of toned down the cocoa undertones I was getting and brought out more of the smokiness. So really enjoyable so far.
Jim, you are a pipe guy too. we're glad that you like to hang around with us and smoke the
Absolutely.
pipe with us.
When he remembers to bring it. Yes.
Surrounded by
remembers
the
to bring it.
experts here,
Yep.
so I appreciate that. Brown bread.
Brown bread.
Brown bread,
Brown bread. A little bit of sweetness there.
not to be
It-
confused with wheat bread.
It's got a pretty good kick to it too as well. Yep, there's
Yeah.
definitely some. This is a full body tobacco. It's outstanding. Right from the first puff. I don't think I've ever actually enjoyed this before, so this is a nice treat. I'm probably going to get some too as well. Yeah, it's excellent.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent. Well,
and you know more about it than I do. This is a world famous brand, obviously, and producer. Yeah.
what, Gawith, Hogarth, their roots date back to the 1790s,
Wow.
and
Old Testament.
the machines that they use to make this rope, to spin this tobacco, date back to 1792.
Okay.
And they have not been able to find modern machinery that does the same things to the tobacco. So these machines, which are on the National Registry of Historic, machinery over in England where this stuff is made, are the oldest things on those lists that are still in use on a daily basis to make this tobacco. And that's one of the things I love about a tobacco like this, is that you're smoking something that has literally been made like this and on the same machine for
Hundreds of years.
for centuries.
Yeah.
And the history of that, and preparing it the way that you'd have to do it. It's just amazing. But anyway, while we're smoking here and getting some more notes together, let's show you this video on how to prep rope tobacco. All right, I have here some of the brown boogie that we are going to be smoking tonight. It is a rope tobacco, and this is a great tobacco to talk about prep with, because there is so much prep to do with this tobacco here. Some tobacco comes in ribbon form. There's really not much prep work that takes. You just take it out, and maybe if it's wet, you let some dry out for a little bit, maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes before you put it in. For something like this, or something like a plug, you have a little bit more work to do. And with a tobacco like this, what you do is you literally have to cut it yourself before you do it. And so I like to go small here. Now I've let this stuff kind of dry out during the day, because I'm thinking we may need some to smoke tonight. Okay, you cut it like that. You can even, if you want, take a pair of scissors to it, just like that, and cut it like that. And you end up with these little coins of tobacco. Okay, like that. And the next thing you need to do, the outside band of that, you could hear, and maybe you can see, was a little bit dry. But what's inside is still very moist to the touch. And if you unravel it a little bit, you see what's in here. Because this is spun tobacco. So you've got these longer pieces that were actually in the rope there. And what you need to do is rub these out a little bit, just on a cutting board or any kind of flat surface. You can even use a piece of paper if you're using scissors. I wouldn't use a knife just on top of a piece of paper. But just break up those coins into ribbon. And you can kind of see, again, I like taking these apart and showing just how long some of this stuff is folded up in there. So long pieces of tobacco. So you're basically taking it back out to a ribbon. Okay. And then with a rope tobacco like this, this is actually still maybe a little bit too moist. So what you might want to do is just let it sit for 10 or 15 minutes, maybe even half an hour before you put it into your pipe. And then you would pack it just like you would anything else. But that is how you prepare rope tobacco. All right, there you go. That's how we did it. That's what it looks like. This is some really good stuff. Now, watching the video there, rope tobacco obviously takes some prep time to it. You actually have to cut it up and prepare it. If you're using a plug, it's the same kind of thing. You have to make slices of it yourself, or if it's a crumble cake, you have to, pull off bits of the cake and rub it out and stuff like that. Obviously, there's tobacco like ribbons or shags where there's really no prep time to it, unless you're going to take some to dry it out or get ready for you for your pipe. When you are smoking a pipe, do you gravitate towards tobaccos that are minimal effort to get into your pipe, or does that matter to you? You go back and forth, or do you maybe even prefer the tobaccos that take a little bit of work, and that process is just something that you really enjoy, and so you prefer doing that more than, like, say, a ribbon tobacco or something like that?
It's real for me. It's just really what I'm in the mood for. The process doesn't make a difference to me. If I'm in the mood for some Black Irish X, I'm going to take the time it takes to prepare it and do it, because it's part of the anticipation of it
And the experience.
Yeah.
Because the pipe, obviously, it's relaxing.
Yeah.
I mean, some people have them hanging out of their mouth all day, but overall, I equate it to just to be able to relax.
It
So
takes
I
time
wouldn't
to
mind
prepare.
fooling around with the rope or
rubbing it out.
however it takes to, prep it.
Yeah.
I think some of the best tobacco that I personally have smoked have been the ones that you actually have to take the time to cut. So like the spark plug,
Yeah,
the
spark
cake,
plug.
that brownie cake, the plug, and the Gawith Hogarth's, brown Irish X and black Irish X, that you have to cut, and you have to let it sit out for a little bit of time to dry out. Those are the ones that I find are the ones that I gravitate towards. And I don't smoke pipes that often, but when I do, I prefer the ones that have the greatest flavor, the more intense ones, like I just talked about. So that's the ones I have no problem spending the time to do that.
Yeah.
No, I know that this is all kind of, you're probably the newest pipe smoker among us, but you've had, on the show, you've had, ribbon tobacco, just open the tin, take it, put it in the pipe. This was something, I actually took about 10 minutes to cut this up early in the morning, let it, let it sit out in the sun,
out.
basically baked it. So that because Gawith Hogarth, half of what you're buying is water. Basically, you got to get rid of that because,
Really?
of
It's
course,
that moist?
wet things don't
Oh
burn.
yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, wow.
And then but here we are at the end of the day, and this is a really enjoyable thing. And for me, I enjoy that anticipation, that kind of prep. Almost like you're making when you get
It's
a
like
crock
making
pot,
an apple pie.
get
man.
a crock pot going in the morning, putting everything together, and then thinking about it all day. That when you come home, you can have a
Anticipation.
great
Yeah.
dinner. That's kind of what I get with these tobaccos that take a little bit more time and effort to get to. But what's been your experience? Do you have a preference so far of what we've had, or?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think a firm believer in go big or go home. So like Dave said, if there's an enjoyable pipe tobacco, I'm gonna go for that one no matter what. I feel like smoking pipe, there is a lot more that goes into it as is, with just packing it, keeping it lit, the whole process. So it's you might as well experiment with some of these pipe tobaccos that take a tiny bit more time to prepare. I don't think there's anything wrong at all with going. I'm not going to be held back from buying a pipe tobacco that takes a little bit more time to prep than I would any other pipe tobacco, because as it is, if I'm dedicating the time to smoke my pipe, then I'm gonna put in it, whatever is going to be the most enjoyable and unique.
Sure. And for me, I love the fact of, that pipe smoking allows you to kind of become part of the process. With a cigar, like the Unhinged, I'm taking Christian's final work and snipping it
Right.
and then lighting it up
short,
and,
too.
and,
I mean,
and,
there's that.
and enjoying it, but I'm really enjoying what Christian has produced and put out there. And when it comes to pipe tobacco, especially a rope or something where you're actually more involved with preparing, you're becoming part of the process too. You're taking somebody's finished work and making it yours by cutting it as thick or as thin as you want, rubbing it out or leaving it in chunks or leaving it in little coin-sized slices or maybe half and half. You get to decide how it ends up in your bowl. You get to decide how it's packed. You get to decide how much of your bowl you're packing. And so you have, by the time you get through with it, you've done something. And so you're now part of the thing that you're enjoying. And I really like that. I like being able to be part of the process that way.
Amen.
But I really think, Paul, taking another drink here,
Paul's perfect pairing.
I really think this is a perfect pairing, Paul.
PPP.
The maple in that whiskey just complements the little bit of sweetness that's in the
Right.
background and with the Virginias here. These are dark fired Virginias that make up this rope. So there is that natural sweetness to the Virginias, but they've also been smoked, so there's that smokiness, that nuttiness that we're tasting, and it just brings out more of that
Yeah, 'cause
sweetness of the Virginia.
when I've smoked this before, it's been very like mesquite forward, and now it's like the sweet is forward,
Yeah.
and it's an amazing difference.
When I was thinking about the pairing and why I chose this particular bourbon was realistically what was on my mind was the tobacco tonight. The cigar I thought went very, very well with this, but this is even more so a complementary pairing.
Thank you for doing your job, Paul.
Yeah. Sweet spice on sweet spice.
Sweet Spice.
Sweet
brought
Spice.
to you by Paul.
Not to be
Soundbite.
not to be confused with Old Spice.
Now that's a high five. Right? Come on.
I'll drink to that.
That's a high
my
five.
goodness.
Can we high five today?
Sure.
We high
Good
five.
cheers too.
Paul,
Jizz.
do you have is Paul blowing smoke
I do.
segment for us tonight?
So, blowing smoke is short for blowing smoke up your backside or your arse, which is a figure of speech, but it is also a literal one.
And we have to ask whether you're
Correct.
blowing smoke or just blowing smoke or not just blowing smoke.
Correct.
Okay.
Am I blowing smoke?
Up your ass or
Yeah.
Blowing
Or
smoke.
out.
Arse.
Blowing smoke
Arse.
is
Arse.
short for blowing smoke up your backside, which is a figure of speech. But it is also a literal one.
I think I missed that class in high school.
All right.
Indubitably.
I'm going to go with you're not just blowing smoke. I think I think that's true.
Yeah.
I'm going to go
Agreed. Agreed.
with I'm going to go
Jimmy?
with not just blowing smoke.
I'm going to concur with Mr. Dan.
Dave?
I'm gonna go on the wild side and say you're full of bleep.
Oh, you're just blowing smoke.
You're just building.
So, Dave, you're wrong, and everyone else is
Oh.
right.
What else is new?
It's another high five. High five.
So back in the 1700s, doctors would literally blow
Blow
smoke up someone's backside to resuscitate them. Specifically, if they were drowning.
Was peyote
Wow.
around then?
So
Yeah,
how does that work? Does the smoke expel the water that's in the lungs when it is blown into the nether region?
Smoke apparently, from what I've read, did resuscitate people who were unconscious. They
Yeah,
used
it's
it
like smelling
specifically
salts, only the
if they had drowned or they had become unconscious while
I would
swimming.
think anything happening in my butt would wake me up.
I think we should start doing that at the bar when people get too drunk.
That
If
might be
someone
a-
falls
yes.
asleep at the bar. Just
And can we call you to
Yeah.
facilitate that?
There is
I
a
think that's a
conundrum.
Kendra job.
Oh, okay.
Oh, hey, Ocean Master.
Hey, he's drowning. You got your pipe?
Here's Bob with the weather.
Wow. Things you never thought you'd hear on Not Just Blowing Smoke. My goodness. That was very interesting.
Yes.
Yes. Where did you? Yes, I
That's
know
the
you
word of the
concur.
day, actually. I pulled that out of my butt. I said concur.
This is the way.
Okay. This is the way you resuscitate somebody. Give me your pipe.
Sweet nuts.
Give it back. Give it back. Wow.
It was very municipal.
So, did any of you? I know the Patriots weren't in the Super Bowl, but
Sort
did
of.
any of you watch it last night?
Oh, yeah.
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 Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Did you watch Bree? Did you watch the Super Bowl?
No comment.
No comment.
I did not. Well,
I thought we had one more high five, but apparently
almost. Well, it's because I was supposed to be going snowboarding for the first time, but
Ah.
the mountain was booked, so I ended up going to a local brewery instead.
not. Nice.
Yes.
Where they didn't
Well,
have
not-
television?
No, I wasn't really paying attention to it, to be honest. Left before the Super Bowl started, drove back, and
And what did you do when you got home?
Knitted.
relaxed.
Knitted.
Yeah.
Knitted.
And relaxed.
Play that
and,
bass guitar.
Yep. No, not even.
Ding, 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 ding.
I feel like I purposely didn't watch this year. It's just kind of like I need a break from all the.
From all the
I took a different approach this
media.
year. I actually ended up watching it solo, and I didn't watch any of the pregame. I watched none of it,
Mhm.
and I actually came in about 10 minutes late.
Mhm.
So I think just
Me too.
something different. I didn't
Yep.
want because I listen to sports radio a lot, and it's just been Brady. And obviously, there's a reason for that. We love Tom. I was like, you know what? I don't even want to watch. I don't want to watch all the hype. I just want to
Yeah.
watch the game. It was a good game. I'm astonished that Kansas City didn't come out. They came out the way they did.
I'm
Right.
not.
But I mean-
I'm actually not.
But you
surprised.
can't fault. I mean, Tom 10 times. It's just he's a good dude, never in trouble. So I was rooting for him, obviously.
Yeah, I was rooting for Tampa.
Well,
two
I heard
two
from-
touchdowns to Gronk. I mean, was amazing.
Yep.
They broke the record. I mean, that was obviously probably something they were going to attempt anyways.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
it was good. The gentleman that made it onto the field, the streaker.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
Those videos have been going around.
Yeah.
The ones
Yeah,
from the
the
fans.
one year I
Thankfully,
don't watch.
the fans took the photos, the videos for us because they won't show it anymore. The old days they used to show it. The poor bastard, he made it. He ran what we were talking earlier, almost 60 yards to the 1 yard line. He slid in and then was abruptly arrested. But I think they went overboard. Just you know what? Just throw the guy out.
Yeah.
What the hell?
worth
He,
it.
clearly he's not armed. He may have had too many beverages.
Yeah.
Why can't it be like the old? Just have some fun. Whatever.
He's
I don't know. He
armed,
stopped
but
the
not
game.
dangerous.
I mean, I don't know. You look at the guy. He's in a,
Naked and extremely dangerous.
extremely dangerous. Yeah. I look at it as they should have just rounded him up and threw him out the fucking front.
Yeah,
Or whatever. I
yeah.
don't know. I mean,
Now, one of the reasons to watch a Super Bowl are the commercials.
Mhm.
Or
Yeah.
at least it used to be that way.
Yeah.
Watching the
this
commercials,
year was,
I was paying attention to them, but I didn't really see any big things. There weren't any really huge
no.
movie release.
Bud Light was the biggest failure this year. I think.
Yeah.
Was there a favorite commercial you guys had?
Paramount with Picard at the top of the mountain and talking to everybody. I just thought that was hilarious. I thought that was the best out of all of them.
Who was the one when it was probably instead of it did happen? What was that what's that comedian there? Tracy.
Tracy Ullman.
No,
Oh,
I know what you're talking about.
That was a
Yeah.
funny one.
Yeah.
They were doing a play on like, is it literal or not? And then probably what happened, and then they show all these.
Oh
dangerous
yeah,
scenes.
yeah.
I think there was
Tracy Morgan.
Tracy Morgan. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think there was
Yeah.
two of them.
I'll take literal. Let's go literal. The mortgage company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forget what product it was, but the commercial that showed the lemons dropping out of the sky.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
2020 was
Yeah.
the lemon of the year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
that one to me was funny. I didn't watch all the commercials, but I remember laughing at that one.
See,
I forgot exactly what they
And
were trying to promote.
That
But
they
commercial's
give it
been
to you the
on
day before.
though.
Yeah,
that
the-
commercial's been on for weeks.
The day before, there's a whole Boston.com had a whole rundown. You could watch every commercial.
Yeah.
I didn't watch all of them, but I watched a few of them.
Yeah,
I
that's the
thought the
instant gratification of the age.
I thought the commercials were a dud.
Yeah, overall,
To me, nothing will ever beat the original Budweiser frogs.
That was a great series of
the
commercials.
skydiving one many years ago. I think that was the first commercial of the Super Bowl when they were up on the plane getting ready to jump, and the guy says he wouldn't jump, and the guy's like, not even for a 6-pack of Bud Light, and then the pilot comes running out and jumps out the window.
I remember that.
There's the infamous Wego, the dog. You named your dog Wego? Here we go. I mean,
I'm just glad there wasn't a Dilly Dilly commercial.
Oh,
Yeah.
Jesus.
I got so
Oh,
tired
God.
of
Remember
that.
Vinny Vinny?
Dilly
Come on.
Dilly.
did it, but they were funny.
the first few ones were funny, but then,
Yeah.
then it got.
Will Ferrell was
overbearing.
funny with the electric car.
Yeah. Norway.
Yeah, you're in Sweden.
Yes. Oh, it's so cute. How can I be mad at?
Yeah. That was a minute commercial too, so that was a long one. Yeah.
My favorite all time is the Terry Tate office linebacker.
Yeah.
That to me is the best one.
At the printer.
Yeah, that was that commercial was. I still play
The
it.
office
I
linebacker,
still every
yeah.
once in a while go online and play that just to get a couple of chuckles.
That one was insane. Yeah.
Mm.
The office linebacker.
You know you need a cover sheet on your TPS reports, Richard.
TBS. Wow.
Well, that's a good lead into my would you rather question for tonight.
Boy.
This is for everybody, and Jimmy, we'll start with you since you're the big guest for tonight.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Big little guest.
Sean asked me today, are you having any celebrities on the show? I said, well, we have Big Jimmy Price on tonight. He said, no, I mean celebrities.
Oh, excellent. Mr. Reiner.
But since you're our big guest tonight,
I will remember
here's
that,
the would you rather
Sean.
question. Would you rather Tom Brady win another Super Bowl or just retire?
I am for. I know he's coming back. I want him to come back. And repeating, as we see, is very difficult to do. Hasn't been done since the Patriots. I think 03, 04.
Yes.
I am a proponent to having Tom come back. He's too competitive. I don't think he's a show off. He loves football. It's very clear. His accomplishment is insane to leave a different conference and win with another team that hasn't done anything in 17 years. It's pretty amazing. I mean, you've watched it all season. You saw guys taking their shirts off after the game, asking for autographs, asking for Tom's shirt. Always, the young kids are out there running around. I'm a proponent for having him come back. I know he'll come back. He'll at least come back and honor the contract. And depending on what they do next year, I mean, you never know. He could go back to the Super Bowl. So Tom's definitely playing another year. He's 43, so I foresee him playing 2 more seasons, is my guess.
Okay.
He'll come back next year, see what can be done.
Yeah, he said he wants
have-
to play till he's 45.
45, yeah. So I think that's a goal he has set in his mind. I mean, the guy's in mint condition, completely in mint
He
condition.
clearly showed he can still play.
He can still play. And they all have ugly games. I mean, let's face it, there was some ugly. They lost 3 games in a row this year. I mean, so you just never know. Look at the season Aaron Rodgers had. I
Right.
mean, it's an amazing season. But we're very, very lucky. I don't think we'll see a group of this many talented quarterbacks in the pool for many, many years. Or also, obviously, everyone that's on the field is a good player. It's very difficult to play football at that level. But I think Tom's coming back. I want him to come back, and I hope they win it again.
Okay.
Yep.
Bree.
So even as someone who doesn't really particularly care much about sports, I do feel like with him setting a personal goal for going to 45, he at least needs to play another 2 years, just because even in the event that next year is not as great, he has that extra year. People are still very much I think rooting for like Tom Brady. You never know what's going to happen. So I mean, I could see it happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I love the Patriots. We had an incredible 20-year run. It's never going to be seen again. So I have no complaints.
Right.
Or bashing or anything. He left. I mean, people leave jobs.
Yeah.
They spend 20 years at a job and they try something new to reinvent themselves. So I mean, it really can't be any bashing or
No.
hatred towards him. I
No.
mean, I'm not a season ticket holder. There's a lot of people that have heavily invested, especially financially, to go down there week after week and spend all that money. That really, really are really into it. But I mean, you can't blame the guy. And I don't look at it as a Tom versus Belichick either. I mean, Bill Belichick is a great coach, great mastermind of football. There are many of them. So it is what it is. A lot of this is on the radio, and
Oh, sure.
they're always pitting people against each other and try to take the guy off from the top. But
Right.
I won't take anything away from Tom or Bill Belichick or any of the great teams. We had so many great teams. It's insane. I mean, football's a club, right? So there's
Right.
a lot of great teams. So we've been extremely fortunate in New England. And it was nice and refreshing to see some different teams in the Super Bowl.
Well, that's what that was
right.
my takeaway. It was nice to watch a Super Bowl where I didn't have to be
Oh,
personally invested in it for the
Right.
first time in like
Or not
20
watching
years.
the first half or most of the season, which I was doing towards the end. I wasn't
Yeah.
watching a lot of the Patriots games, not because I'm not a fan,
Right.
but it was all they just methodically made it to the playoffs, and you
Right.
would watch the last 3-4 games in the Super Bowl. I mean, we became kind of conditioned to that. But what an accomplishment. Of all sports, there'll always be debates and who's the best and who's that and all that. But I mean, couldn't happen to a nicer guy.
Well, I mean, to me, that's over. I mean, Tom
the
Brady.
official Tom Brady debate is over.
It should be over. He's the
It's
best.
definitely
He's
over
the
now.
best.
He is
Yeah.
the GOAT.
He's the best that's been in the game.
Yep. And someone should tell Shannon Sharp that too as well, because Shannon's been saying for many years, maybe not this past year, but he's on record on ESPN and all that, saying he's done and he's washed up and all this stuff. That only motivates him. I can imagine anyone even
Yeah.
more. So
And let's not
never
forget all the
poke Superman in the chest. Right?
Yep.
So. I
Yep.
mean, we've seen Tom play amazing, and we've seen him play horrific. So
Don't
it's just
tug
what
on
it is.
Superman's cape.
Yeah, and I think Patrick Mahomes is great for the NFL. A nice young man, insane contract, and I think he'll be back. This is a game he'll learn from, and go forward. I think he's good for the league. He has a really good vibe.
Yeah.
Cool.
I don't find him to be someone that's going to be in trouble or any of these things. He's incredibly wealthy now. But I think he'll be back. The Chiefs aren't going to go anywhere. They're not going to roll. I was shocked at the way they played, honestly, because even when we were up 3 touchdowns, I'm like, oh, they're going to come back. I mean,
Yeah.
this is second half will be, but it kind of went into like a limp mode, and then it was like, wow, the clock's an issue, and Tom
Yep.
Brady won again.
Yep.
What do you think, Paul?
I
You
would-
think he should just end while he's on the top of the mountain, or should he keep going?
No, keep going. I will say this though: if he does come back, well, I know he was come back, but if he does win next year, I would love to see him retire at that point.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Retire on
Yeah.
point. So give him one more year there. The belief is that Arians wants to keep as many of the players this year for next year
Yeah,
as
they
much
gotta
as he
bring him
can.
back. Yeah.
So bring back a lot of the core players, a lot of the talent that he's had this year. If he can keep most of those guys intact, bring Gronk back for another year. Brady, maybe he can get a few more. Hopefully, maybe Edelman can come in. You know,
A few more
the top-
Patriots.
Yeah, and
That wouldn't be surprising either.
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I'm expecting that.
Julian's a gamer, as
Yep.
of course. So
Yep.
he's
And he and Tom are good friends, and
Yeah.
they practice a lot off season together. But if they do make it to the Super Bowl and win next year, I would love to see him just go off in the sunset.
yeah.
No more. 45 is great goal to have, but if he can go out on top, who could not be
Like
happy?
Elway
for him?
did it. Maybe
Exactly.
back to back.
Yep, back to
There
back.
was no
and say
reason
goodbye.
to come back
No,
for that third
absolutely
year.
not.
There was no
Yeah.
reason. Yeah.
Dave, what about you?
Yep. I would definitely like to see him leave with an even number of rings. You know,
The memes.
that's a nice fistful, double fist.
Yep.
That'd be awesome. I think regardless of what team you're on, to be able to be alive during somebody like that is it doesn't happen all the time. You know,
It's never happened.
so
No one's ever done what he's done. It's
but
amazing.
it is. It's absolutely
Yeah,
astounding, and
totally
I'm happy
agree.
to see him perform whatever team he's on, and I hope he does it again and again.
So, what's our final verdict here on Gawith Hogarth's Brown Bogie. What do you think, Jim?
Fantastic. It's one of the better pipe tobaccos I've ever had. To be quite honest with you, I've never had it before. Trust you guys
It's hard to
immensely.
find. It's hard to find,
True.
Jim.
It is true, and you told me that last year, about a year ago. You told me remember when you brought it in, or and I trust your opinion big time on pipe tobacco and cigars. So to me, I knew it was going to be a treat. It's fantastic. I would definitely purchase this.
What do you think, Bree?
I have to agree. It mellows out very nicely on the relight. All the flavors kind of come together at the end. You still get that mesquite undertone. You get the smokiness. The sweetness kind of mellows out as well. The bourbon pairing just kind of tops it all off. It's almost like an extra coating over the mesquite. So yeah, I would say it's rounding out very nicely.
Well said.
Kendra would say sausage rope.
Sausage rope.
Yeah.
I think it's been a delicious tobacco. It's very flavorful. Love the smoky mesquite out of this, the sweetness, the little bit of leather tones too. I think the pairing, what can I say? It's been fantastic.
You're giving the potion
Beautiful
master
meat.
run for her money.
Well, she has to come on the show more often to show me up. But
Yeah.
but until then, I'll just
You'll
keep
just
going,
keep stepping up.
keep stepping up. That's right. Next man up.
It's fantastic.
And Nick's been banned, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically.
Banned.
It's been banned from the
It's-
show.
Play the cue.
Ladies and gentlemen, Nick has been removed from the panel.
Yeah. I don't know. Dave, what about you? Final verdict on Brown
I
Bogie?
just picked up on that actually. That's me.
Yeah. I think it's great. I think it's great because I love the mesquite barbecue. I love the way that the pairing has brought out the sweeter side of the tobacco and kind of tucked away that mesquite barbecue, so it's kind of just in the retro ale. I'm very
I
happy.
love the mesquite barbecue, and I love how it's been tucked away.
I do. Yeah. I love
Actually, what is the blend in this? Is this lot of Kia? Or
No,
what do we
there's
have?
no Latakia in this
There's
at
no
all.
Latakia. What do we have in
It
here?
is a Virginia blend. It is dark fired Virginia. That's
the
all it
Virginia
is.
That sweet. That's
That's where the
Yeah.
sweetness comes from.
Now, is this topped? Is it a top?
No,
it's
there's no
not.
topping on it. There's no flavor on it.
What's the
at all.
top again, real quick? When they top a tobacco.
When they top a tobacco, they make the mix, and then they add some kind of flavor or topping to it.
Oh, okay.
Could be bourbon, could be brandy, could be whiskey, could be some kind of flavoring, cherry,
Okay.
whatever. Casing is something where a particular part of the tobacco, or maybe the entire mix, is cased, with that flavoring from the beginning. That becomes part of the, So a topping is kind of like, let's salt and pepper it with this.
Okay.
Whereas the casing would be,
You're
let's
baking
put
it
this
with
let's
it, right?
put this let's put this in a kind of a gravy or something.
Okay. All right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or a roux, or something like that.
Hmm.
Oh, I really like this tobacco. It's great. Ropes are hard to find, but I believe they are worth it, especially Gawith Hogarth's ropes. And we've had Brown Irish X, which is a thicker rope. And we've had Black Irish X on the show. This is our third Gawith Hogarth rope we've tried on the show, and all three of them have been fantastic.
We've also
Really,
done
really
Brown
good.
number 4. Let's not
Brown number 4 is a Samuel Gawith rope that comes in tins, 50-gram tins, and that's good stuff too. Now, next week we have a very special episode. We have the True Crime Show, and we are going to be joined by retired Private Eye Twins tobacconist Scott Keller.
Wow.
And he's going to talk to us about Netflix hit documentary Trial 4, which is about a man who was accused of murdering a Boston police officer back in the early 1990s, and is now getting a new trial. And if you watch this documentary, Trial 4, which talks about how they get to trial number 4, Scott is in episode 6 and 7,
I saw a clip from that.
and
Yes.
he is actually the guy who blows this whole thing open and basically shows how this guy could not have done it. And it's amazing to watch. And so he's going to talk to us about his experience as a private investigator. He's going to talk about the Trial 4 documentary, and it's going to be a really, really cool episode. And we'll be smoking one of his favorite cigars, the Diamond Crown Maximus Toro number 4. And we'll be smoking Captain Earl's 10 Russians.
Oh.
10 Russians.
10 Russians. It
10
smokes
Russians. So please subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com /NJBS podcast, and at Not Just Blowing Smoke on Instagram, so you don't miss a thing. Thanks for being with us tonight. And that, my friends, is Not Just Blowing Smoke. Thanks for being with us.